This is a Calabash Digger film crew right here, and this is the new beach buggy to make life, easier, guys. We used to have to carry all this stuff by hand, didn't we, Carolina Digger? Whoa, whoa! Oh no! Not good. Not good. Function number one.
Too heavy on one side.
Too heavy. We was not weighted, man. Let me get the tripod. We'll go from here. All right, guys, we're live. It's on a Saturday this time, so I am just jumping all around the board, and got a couple of things that I need to do really quickly before I give the shout outs. And it was asked by a gentleman that's in here with us, and I need to call out the settings for how I hunt the beach. Well, I start out and I don't have my camera set up on it, so you might have to go back and re-watch this because I'm gonna call them out pretty quickly. I go to beach sensitive. I go to the scrim. I lower it down to, I don't know, about 6.8, 7, somewhere in there. I go to pitch tones. I don't use any bottle caps. I don't use any notch. I go down to the silencer, and I usually normally leave it at 2. Don't really want to be hearing, you know, I kind of want a silencer for the caps. That helps it too. Now, I am running 2.0. Well, this is actually 3.1, so same settings in both. Salt sensitivity, 7 or 8, but I start out with 7. Frequency max will be on the black holes, the 40-something kilohertz. And my camera go out of focus, there it comes back. On the white coil, I'll run 88 kilohertz, iron volume around 6. And this is key right here, is the reactivity is 1.5 to 2. If you want a more stable machine, run it at 2. Sensitivity stock, audio response 4. And if it's, you know, if the shallow stuff is hitting too hard, lower that down to 3. And then on the pitch, I go in behind the threshold into the expert menu and raise it up to about 475, somewhere in there. So it'll give a higher tone. But that is how I run the machine on the beach. So that beach program has done a lot of good for me, and a lot of people have found a lot of stuff with it. But you may have to go, I know I went through that pretty quick. I should have had it wrote down and put on a chart, but I've got a lot of information to share tonight. So you guys, if I get behind on the comments, you guys please forgive me, but I've got like a lot of information that we need to talk. A wonderful first aid kit based off your videos. What's up, Thomas? Tommy, the bugs before I get to Legend 2. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you that, guys, this, I have not received the Legend 2. Now, I did receive a Legend 1 that I requested, and let me show you what's in there real quick, because I want to compare. I want this to be our base. So we want to start out with the Legend 1 and figure out, you know, what the Legend 2 is doing. So I requested a round 11-inch coil. It still got the LG30 and the, you know, the other coil, but I requested that round coil with it because I want to be able to, give me just a second, guys, and I'll put it back on the main scene. I want to be able to compare apples to apples. So one of the engineers got married, the head engineer who finalizes the test samples to send out. So they said he'll be back this week. So hopefully we will get a test sample to start working through. I was hoping to have footage to show you guys of that machine. So kind of let down, but you know, it is what it is. We'll get it and we'll go from there. But like I said, we got a pretty information loaded live that we're going to do here. So appreciate it, Thomas. What's up, Lance? What's going on, Brad? Oh, Brass Medic's in here. Brass Medic and me had a long talk, and we'll get into about CTX performance, but I'm going to go ahead and drop a bombshell, and he told me I could quote him on this. Brass Medic, to me, is a MindLab insider. He's used MindLab forever. He is a CTX expert, and he also has communications with the company and has inside information. Well, here is a piece of inside information that he told me I could quote him on, and people are not going to like this. There will be no CTX 4040 or CTX 3030 second generation replacement. MindLab has moved on from that, and he told me, I could quote him, there will not be one, and that come directly from MindLab to him. So all of this has been floating around for a few years about the new second generation CTX has been just a pipe dream, according to what was told to him. So, with that being said, that's a bomb drop, mic drop on a lot of the people that wanted a CTX 4040 or whatever they would have called it. They moved on from that technology and have moved on in a different direction. And he told me I could quote him. Brass Medic, I quoted you. And we're going to get into the Manicore. We're going to get into all of this. Go ahead and get the Nokta Legend 2. Yeah, go ahead and get it, man. If look, Thomas is one of these guys that's like me. He wants everything new that comes out, and if you can afford it, get it. I mean, and not, I'm just that way. I want to test everything and look at it, and so we can have information on it. Manicore first, Legend second. Although I may be surprised. Well, we got to get it and test it and see what it's doing. Ergonomics of a straight shaft. What's up, Bass Chaser, Buzzsaw? Plainly suck. Yeah. It's not every shaft fits everybody, right? Interested in knowing if Legend 2 is less top heavy than the Legend. Well, as soon as I get one, we'll talk about that. What's going on, Mikey? The other side of the boat. Matthew, Finders Keeper. AT Gold would kill them both. There's people out there that believe that. What's up, Lucky Strike? Carrie, what's going on? Tex, what's up? I got a hernia just watching. Treasure here in Cuba. I got you. But I want to start out, and I want to start out and talk about the, what's up, Delco? I want to talk about the Manicore versus the CTX. And one of the things that kind of perplexes me a little bit in this equation is that the CTX is $1,999 still. And as soon as you start placing them head to head, and yes, I only had a CTX with a 17-inch coil to run against the Manicore 15-inch coil, took it to the beach, done a depth test in my test garden, iron unmasking test, and it is apparent that the CTX is far behind that technology on the beach, unmasking, and depth in mild soil. And that is another aspect of this conversation, is when you get the CTX and the E-Track into highly mineralized dirt, the Manicore and the Equinox also. This is another thing. Let me just quit talking about the Manicore by itself. The Equinox 900 will blister the CTX in mineralized dirt on the beach on gold from what I've seen so far. So I decided, with a few of the comments that I've gotten on my comments, that I just purchased a brand new CTX, and it'll be here Tuesday according to the UPS tracking, and we're going to run through the gamut on this thing, compare it to the 900 and the Manicore, and we're going to get this straightened out in the metal detecting community. You guys, it's the same thing that I've seen with other detectors. You've got the guys that come out and defend this old technology, and I get that you may have a security blanket or a love affair, or you know what I mean, with your metal detector, but it's a tool. And I want to know what the best tools are, how they work, how they compare, what you're getting for your money. And I'll say this, me and Brassmatic had a conversation about this today. He's got one of the best collections from Gold Rush era out on the West Coast that I've ever seen. Belt buckles, buttons, ever seen. And he found that stuff mainly with a CTX 3030. Now, with that being said, he uses the modern MindLab machines and the performance is better. That's according to him, it's better. He said the only thing that he could say about the CTX, and after I got off the phone with him and I thought about this, and this goes for the Excalibur too, is those machines handle iron really well. But wait, this can be a blessing and a curse. What do I mean? Well, with the CTX, he said very minimal faulting compared to the Manicore. And the Manicore is not bad, but the CTX has less faulting. Well, the Excalibur is like that too over the Equinox and the Manicore, etc., etc. It handles iron and doesn't fault on iron very much. But what is the trade-off? Very, very poor raw unmasking capabilities when compared to these detectors. And I've always said this, if a detector doesn't do a little bit of faulting, then it's really not unmasking. So basically, me and him, was talking, and he said that is the one plus of the CTX. Well, does that justify a $1,900 price tag? Would you rather have a tad bit less faulting and a whole lot less unmasking, or a little bit more liveliness in the iron and a lot better unmasking? Well, I know which way I lean because I live in the iron and I try to glean out every relic from that. So the question will become, over the coming weeks as I'm showing these two detectors, why is the CTX still higher priced than the Manicore when it's very apparent that the performance is behind? Now, you can make an argument about ID and modern trash, but it comes down to this. Do you want to swing a 5-pound detector, that on the beach that finds less gold or can detect less gold than the Manicore can see and the Equinox 900 can see? That's going to be a very easy video series to prove that the CTX is behind those detectors on gold. That is going to be so easy. I've already seen it. I already knew it from the E-Track and the Excalibur and the CTX that I owned previously, but we're going to go down that rabbit hole and we're going to show it. And basically, we're going to educate, everybody out there about this. Now, MindLab, in my mind, is the world leader in technology, and this is it's going to be their detectors versus their own detectors. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, in my opinion, the Manicore is the king detector. But when you look at the MindLab website, if you didn't know, you would think that the CTX is still the flagship because of the price. And if I said, hey, if somebody asked me what is the best detector MindLab makes in the hobby, I'm going to say the Manicore. Why? Because it outperforms the CTX. Now, if you want a GPS so you can get little dots walking across the field, that may be another story. But weight and performance beats the CTX by a big margin. So let's go back over here and pop back in here just a minute and look at some comments. What's going on? What's going on? Let's see here. Let me get where I need to be. Yeah, that CTX that I was swinging was 7.1 pounds with that 17-inch coil. My back hurt. So Delco, many times was never impressed by them. The E-Track was the real sleeper. I got you, finders keepers. I've tested the E-Track in my soil versus the Manicore, and I come away with Manicore beats it, and it's by a pretty good margin of what I've seen. So plus weight means everything. So, and look, I'm not trying to take away. Let me go ahead and clear this up really quickly. I'm not trying to take away from the CTX revolutionary FBS2, the E-Track and all that. I'm not, but I'm trying to say that MindLab has went further, better, lighter, faster, deeper, better unmasking. That's where we're at. And actually, I would also say that maybe even simpler. And we're going to get into that in a few minutes too and talk about simpler machines and targeting the beginning crowd. And I got a story to share. Sharpshooter already did a little talk of the day on it. So Manicore versus Legend 2 should be very interesting. We'll see how it unfolds. We'll see how we're stars for their time, but that time is over. That's right, Finders Keepers. It is. It is. Out the other day at the beach, and my arm is killing me. Yeah. But you know what? That's another one. It's $1,599. And somebody asked me, why do I dive with the Deus 2? And I said, well, it's better. It's better performance. Now, if you need 200 feet water rating, then you must go with the Excalibur. But I don't dive that deep. But as far as underwater, it blows the Excalibur away. And I was diving with the Excalibur for a long time. All my buddies were diving with it. Well, all of them use Deus 2s now. Why? Because it's better. It's a better performer. It finds more stuff. The audio's better underwater. And, you know, it's more versatile detector. If you buy that detector, then you can hunt on land with it too, beach with it, and so forth. So you've got two detectors sitting in the Minelab lineup, the CTX at $19.99. I think the Excalibur is $15.99, and the things that make you go, what's up with that? But I got to hopefully it will still run with the Legend 2. Well, yeah, we're gonna put them up. What's up, Dirt Cod Bob? We're gonna put them up head to head. Detect Met. What's going on in Spain? I would usually beat my buddy using the CC. Once we both got a Deus 2, it was a 50-50 deal. Yeah. That's what I was talking to Brass Medic about, the hot soil. And he told me, you know, from his experience with the E-Track out there, that the Manicore just basically smoked it in hot dirt. And I rely on other, you know, knowledgeable detectors about the hot dirt aspect to, you know, get information about that and share with you guys, because I just don't have that. You know, to test in. But the beach, we're going to start doing a lot of that, because there is a lot of beach hunters in this world. And yeah, I know beaches vary in magnetic sand, but you know, in all black sand and all that stuff, and you know, that can change performance of detectors. But we're going to do a lot of beach testing videos coming up, and you know, different things this year. We're going to do some land hunting. And we're going to, you know, really dig into, I enjoy this part of the hobby of detector comparisons and rating detectors. But as you know, it always ruffles feathers. And I'm a feather ruffler. You know, I like to get in a good tumble every now and then. And, you know, but I try to back up what I say and show it on video. And I don't just pull things out of thin air. I know we live in a world today where people will just pull things out of thin air and just say anything that, whether, you know, and it's the furthest from the truth. And it doesn't take much investigating to figure out that they just made it up and said it, you know, to push their own agenda. And we don't do that here. I don't care what detector you use, and I surely don't care whether you use a Minelab, Manicore, or Equinox 900 or CTX. But what I do care about is you guys out there spending your hard-earned money. We want to have the facts as close and, you know, as precise as possible when we're laying down our money. So I want to provide the most accurate information I can. And that is the goal. And I've said that a million times on this channel. That is the goal. So we're going to look more at the CTX 3030. And actually, I've got a video up real quick. Let me just pull in here and let's go look at what I showed the other day. And you guys tell me really quickly, never got any ticks on the metal detector. Yeah, that's true. But let's go look at this real quick. You guys tell me what you think. This is a 17-inch coil versus the 15-inch coil on the Manicore, 9-inch coil, and 11-inch coil. Just about a 4-minute video. Let's just go check it out, and then we can come back and talk about it. But I'm going to have to. Here, 12-inch nickel. Go back to the detect screen. We see the trace come up the bottom, but absolutely nothing. Pendant right here, guys. The pendant's right here. Boy, I got some kind of smidget tone on the pendant that time, so pass or fail, I'll let you guys be the judge on that. We've got the 12-inch gold ring right here.
2.5 grams. We've got the sensitivity manually set at 22. That is as high as I could get it and walk around. As you've seen, guys, I was trying to get the machine apples to apples with stability, and the CTX is actually a little more stable than the Manicore, but that's all. We'll get into that later. That's all about frequency too. 14-inch, stay tuned.
All right, guys, I thought this would be a good time to jump in and actually show you the pendant up close. 14 karat gold. Don't know the weight on this, but I know that this 14K ring is 2.5 grams. So you guys can kind of see the size compared to a USA penny. This thing actually has some weight to it, so it's a solid piece. It's not like it's a super micro piece of gold. So stay tuned for the rest of the video.
This is the 12-inch nickel. That's at the limit of this coil right here, Carolina Digger. It actually hit it, but it down averaged it big time. So let's look right here for the pendant. You guys be the judge on the pendant. Let's look at the 12-inch gold ring. Okay, and we'll look at the 14-inch nickel with the 9-inch coil. Smokes the 12-inch nickel, right? That's wild. How is it doing that? It's not seeing as much salt as the big coils, and that's where I warn you guys about using those big coils and thinking that you're getting this extreme depth on ring-size targets, and it's just not the case. I've seen this on the Deus 2, I've seen it on the Equinox 900, and I've seen it on the Manicore multiple times. That big coil is not, well, just watch. Look at the depth on that pendant. CTX was kind of whiffing on it. The big coil M15 on the Manicore was hitting it harder. You hear that, right, guys? The 9-inch coil is smoking that. You can hear that up there, right? Yeah, the other two big coils is just barely whiffing on it. Here is the 12-inch gold ring. Watch this. Slow it down. Normal sweep. That 9-inch coil on that gold ring is deeper than that 17-inch on the CTX, and it's also deeper than the M15 coil, and we will break out the 11-inch coil in just a minute. We'll check the 14. Don't think that's going to happen with the 9, but we'll check it out just to see.
And just to give you guys a heads up, it did whiff on the 14. And this is so, and I had seen this before, and I should have talked about this more. Years ago, I took the Equinox out, and I tested it with a giant coil down in the wet salt sand, and it wasn't hitting the stuff that the 11-inch coil would hit. And I'm like, what is going on here, you know? So I thought about it, looked at it some more, because the common theme in the metal detecting community is what? Bigger coil, greater coverage, hits deeper targets. Well, Carl Moreland, there was having a big discussion, and I did not know this, but Digga from over on Friendly comes over and says, look, Calabash, basically they're having a discussion over there, and it was pertaining to exactly what I showed in the video, and I didn't know it before I did the videos. But it was about the big coils and the currents and, you know, the engineering type stuff. But I said, you know what, a big object, yeah, maybe you do have an advantage with a bigger coil. But once that object gets to about a coin size or ring size or that pendant size, you guys seen that go out the window. So, you know, let's say that it would hit a Mr. T's ring that big around deeper than the 9-inch coil. But what's the percentage, you know, what's the odds of finding a ring that big compared to normal jewelry that's lost, wedding bands, gold necklaces, et cetera, or smaller gold pendants, you know, or smaller gold rings. So there's really been, it's kind of like, in my opinion, misinformation, because what's not realized is that big coil is seeing all that salt. So you got a coil this big, and it's seeing all of that salt, and it's having to analyze all of that salt, which we know is rough on a metal detector. You got a coil this big, and you got a coil this big. Now, the 11-inch coils and the 9-inch coils, I think that maybe a slight edge on depth to the maybe, but we got to get that even nailed down of how much depth difference the Manicore has with 11 versus 9. And Dankowski over on Thomas Dankowski's forum said that, he tested this for Minelab when they were developing the Manicore and all these coils. He said that the 9-inch coil from his testing was very on raw depth, was very comparable with 11-inch coil, because you could basically, because it saw less, you could run it a little bit hotter than the 11, and it basically made up, for its size. But think about this in that equation. You can run it hotter, get the same amount of depth, but the 9-inch coil is more sensitive to the smaller gold, like necklaces, etc., over the 11-inch coil. Now, it may not be this much, but there is a difference, as far as small gold goes. You look at the M8 coil for the Manicore, and it's one of the best nugget hunting coils made, and is sensitive to it'll burn this little. Let me show you guys what we got here. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Let me see if I can get it. See that little gold nugget? That's 0.5. That's 0.5 grams. That machine will burn that little nugget up. Well, what are you going to find on the beach that size? Well, maybe dental gold. But, I was in talking with a guy the other day. He pulled out a bag of dental gold. And, as high as gold is right now, he had a pretty good bit in the bag, and there was some money in that bag. So all gold counts, But let me go back to the comments. But I think that this is, worth talking about. In my question, guys, from you guys that live, see, I don't have this. I have very mild soil here. And when I test these big coils on these like silver $half, dimes, etc., gold coin, the CTX failed miserably on my 9-inch gold coin. The M15 coil on the Manicore on land burnt that gold coin up. The CTX whiffed on it. Then the 15-inch coil on you could go check that video out. The 15-inch coil on the Manicore now for iron unmasking burnt the 17-inch coil up on the CTX. And I did something kind of wild in that video. I compared the Manicore on my mild soil in all-terrain low conductor versus the CTX in its coin program, and the machine beat it, matched it. It was, let me say this. This is what happened. Before the EMI kicked up, the Manicore off camera, and I wished I had filmed it, but I was just thinking this was the way it was going to work out. But some EMI kicked up. You guys know that follow my channel that we got a shop over there when they cut stuff on. The Manicore outperformed the CTX when the EMI kicked up. Before that, they were pretty close on that silver $half. When you walk, and that is where the similarities ended. When I walked to the other part of my garden with the small gold and the mass stuff, it was daylight and dark. So what I did see is the Manicore come out on top with the EMI handling capabilities. It didn't affect the performance on this day on that test as bad as the CTX was affected. So let me go back here and see what we got said, man. Sorry, guys. I know there's a lot of information here. And we're gonna get into a couple of other things too. Delco detecting. Yeah, I appreciate it, Delco. Appreciate it, Mr. Rim. You guys, it would be interesting if you guys did some testing like that yourself down in Australia. On the, just putting up the 9-inch coil or M11, against the M15 in the more mineralized dirt, just to see in general what happens, because, well, I mean, we say we get more coverage with a big coil, but if we lose that off when there's more minerals in the dirt, then it really negates even using a big coil. So this is something to really, really think about, and another thing that me and Sharpshooter was talking about is, like at the beach, I need to take those big coils back, take a target, put it at fringe depth, where it'll hit it, and then, you know, like in slide and mark the coil. And think about this test for a minute. There's a hot spot in a coil. You got a target at, you know, right at the edge of detection, still solid signal, not one that's just one that we would know is there. You know what I mean? A good signal, but down there. How far can you slide the coil forward, and how far can you slide it back versus the M15, the M11, and the M9? What is the coverage difference? Can you overlap the M15 half? Or you know what I'm saying? So what is the overlap on the CTX with the 17-inch coil? If you're overlapping half of it, you may be missing. See what I'm saying? If you're going to follow that strict grid pattern, you may have to really tighten your pattern up as far as etching it forward if you want to hit the deep stuff. And this is something, and you know, I don't like to detect like that. I like to be like more of a free spirit walking around. But there does come a time, like on sites, relic sites, when they get a little bit, the targets get slacker, and you've picked all the easy stuff off. And this is what Brass Medic was talking about with the CTX. He said he would take the CTX and go pick all the easy stuff off a relic site, but then he has to go back over to get the tougher stuff. And my thought on that is I would rather just go through it one time, having the advantage to get both the easy and the harder stuff. But that's just my take on it. But he said that he could use the CTX to pick stuff off of, like in the iron, just go pick the easy stuff and then come back with the Manicore and clean it up. But that's assuming that you got, you know, access to a site multiple times, et cetera, et cetera. But my fear with that is this, and I've got to, you know, I'm one of these guys that always thinks about this stuff because it's happened to me, is what happens if I go to a site and I pick the easy stuff off, and you know, I got to take 2 weeks off, and then some other dudes come down there and see my dig holes and say, uh-oh, and they got Manicores or Deus 2s. And then I come back and they've done hammered the site for 2 weeks. That's just my thoughts. I'm paranoid like that. I want to get all of it when I'm there, or the most I can. But, you know, that was the advantages, the iron and the cherry picking with the CTX. Manicore, for just a few minutes, I was instantly done with the CTX when I saw the Manicore was superior. Thanks for sharing your experience with that, Dirt Clod. What's up, Kevin? On Land's very minimal from what I've seen, the 9 and hands down the best coil. I wonder if it's due to the size of the currents coming out of it and all that good stuff, and you know, it just detects coincides objects better. You know, XP was the 9-inch coil was a big deal. I mean, they're the ones that hit on that. You know, coming out with that 9-inch coil, and that's I love the 9-inch coil. I love it on the Manicore. I love it on XP products too. Get now for the Equinox 7 for beach water hunting. Use a higher recovery speed with the 9-inch coil without sacrificing depth. Buddy's done really good at the beach this year. He sent me a lot of pictures of the gold that he's found down on the beach. He's a dedicated beach hunter. My dog's getting a little bit anxious here, so we'll see how long we can go tonight. We've been on 30 minutes. I keep the small coil on my Elite. How would the 3030 perform against the Xterra Elite? Honestly, from what I've seen in my test on that and prior test, the Elite might beat it on just raw depth on the gold ring. And I got a feeling that the Elite will beat it on small gold. And you know what? I'm going to take the 900 next week when my new CTX comes in. I might need to take an Elite too. I mean, what would that look like if the Elite was beating the CTX on gold ring and wet salt sand and smaller gold at the beach? What would that look like? And there's a good possibility that it will beat it or tie it, because I remember hitting that 12-inch gold ring, this one right here, 2.5 grams, with the Elite. And I'll tell you something else that'll hit it is a triple scope. So beach performance is getting really, no, sir. He is tearing up my notes. No, sir. No, sir. You guys give me a minute. It's tore up my paper. That is not yours. You know better than that. Get over and lay down. Quit eating the paper. You guys give me a second. Let me get this out of his mouth. Give me that. Give me that. Go. Go. He's mad. He's like a little kid because he knows I'm talking to you guys, and he wants all my attention, so he's going to tear something up. Boy, you better get over and lay down. They're like little kids. I didn't realize this. You know, I had dogs when I was younger, but we got this, and he is just like my baby. You know what I mean? And good dog, though, really good dog. Doesn't tear stuff up in the house. Hasn't chewed up any furniture or anything like that. You want to let him see you? Oh gosh, you guys want to see something? You don't tell my wife I showed you this, but we took him to the vet, and she done a number on him. Remember his cool haircut? Like his name was Slash, like Guns N' Roses. What's this? Come here, Slash. Where'd it go? Okay. Come here, Slash. Let's show him what you look like. Now he looks like a poodle. Don't laugh at him, guys. He'll catch a complex. He looks like a poodle. Set. Hey, set it down. Good boy. Look at him. He looks just like a poodle, which he is 75% poodle. All right, break. Get that baby. Now he'll want to play. I shouldn't have done that. All right. Let me go back up to the main screen. But oh yeah, we were on metal detectors. I got off on talking about my dog. Yeah, so the Elite, that is interesting. I prefer the 9 for the way long. Yeah, man. I mean, that's another thing. We're getting older, or a lot of us are getting older. I don't know what the age, is in the metal detect demographics or whatever the words you want to use for it, but we're definitely getting older. Let's see what Brass Medic says. Is the perfect Goldilocks zone size perfect in every way for most dot sites? If I had to choose only one coil for the Manicore, M9, hands down. There you go. Hey, we got Sharpshooter in here. I was just telling them Sharpshooter's got a video up, and you guys go over there and check it out. It's a good detect and talk of the day, and we'll touch on it here too because it's based off basically a story that I told him that I run into, and I talked to Brass Medic about this, and we're gonna dive into this section. So stay tuned. CTX versus Manicore versus Equinox 900, and possibly versus Elite on the beach coming up next week. Unmasking tech. We are going to shake this down and show this technology, this older technology, which was game changing at the time it come out, but things change. You know, my iPhone is different than the flip phone that I used to have. It's better, and that's just, it's more user friendly than the flip phone. I mean, once you know what I mean, you learn the little aspects of it, and you just and navigate around it. And let's talk about Sharpshooter, and let's talk about what Brass Medic and me was talking about today. And Sharpshooter did a video, and it's about ease of use or looking at these detectors. And the triple score is going to be the example because this is how the story gets started. So you guys bear with me a minute and let me lay this out. So I went down, tested the MindLab machines on the beach, and I went back out because there was a big cut and low tide was at like 10 o'clock at night. So I went back out about, I don't know, right before 8, a couple hours before low tide, and I started hunting. And I seen a gentleman walking down the beach, and man, I walked up on him. He had on Nokta socks, Nokta shirt, Nokta hat, Nokta shorts, Nokta pinpointer, Nokta belt. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but he had everything that come in the triple score pro pack on, and it was all Nokta. And he had his brand new triple score out there, and he's learning and trying to learn and metal detect. And I got to talking to him, and he said, "Hey, look, I've never metal detected. I've been down here, I think, a couple of weeks from Kentucky, and I bought this machine and try out some beach metal detecting. And I think somebody in his family or something done a little metal detecting for Civil War relics, and he decided he wanted to get into it." Well, I walked off for a minute, and I was watching him, and he needed a digging tool, and he needed a little direction. So I don't want to offend nobody, so I was treading lightly, and I went back down towards him because I didn't want to offend anybody. I want to help him, and I said, "Hey man, you want to hear this signal?" And he come over, and I knew it was a quarter with the Manicore, and it was deep, man. And the triple score was smacking. It was probably a foot, let's say 10 inches. It was deep. And I popped it out, and I said, he listened to it, and I said, I work with that company on testing that beach program that you got. You want me to look through your settings and set your machine up? And he said, yeah, man. He handed me his machine, and first thing, sensitivity's wide open. And nobody really knows about ground balance. And when you start out metal detecting, like, what is ground balance? And I went through there, set it up just like I use the triple score to test on the beach to make it stable where it just barks on the target, dig, don't dig. Put him a little bottle or a little iron volume in there and everything so you could hear the bottle caps. So I got to thinking about it as I walked off, and I was talking with Sharpshooter, and Sharpshooter was like, you know, we were talking about these things about making these machines more user friendly, and I was talking with Brass Medic about it today, and I'm going to hit on what he talked about real quick. Just as menu layout, we see machines. Look, we see machines cross brands, borrowing different things from each other or copying whatever words you want to use. It's how things are done. Shafts, uh, tones, and we see all these features go from one. They transcend all brands. Even Garrett's got iron bias or iron filter. You know what I mean? So Brass Medic's like, well, you know, maybe everybody in the metal detecting community or manufacturing community should look at the Manicore screen, and all metal detectors should be laid out like that. And I am in agreement with him. If you're gonna, you know, try to imitate something, imitate the MindLab Manicore screen, not the 2D, just the. I mean, if you know whatever, I'm sure that's patented, but I'm talking about the layout, the page layout. Come up the left-hand side, click over a page. So simply, that should be on, that style of menu should be on the beginner detector all the way up to the advanced detector. It is the most user-friendly system out there. And it should be on all. I don't know why that system is not on the new Vanquish line that MindLab has put out. I mean, they own that technology. Why is that menu system not on that machine? Because that is such an easy, well, maybe it doesn't have enough settings, but it should be on the Equinoxes. It should be on the Xstar Elite, in my opinion, because it's so easy to use. Now, going back to what me and Sharpshooter was talking about, I said, Sharpshooter, I said, this guy didn't know. He didn't have his machine ground balance. He had his sensitivity wide open. And it was like just making all kinds of racket. And I'm like, you know, these companies need to focus. And I'm not talking about building just these like scores and double scores and Vanquish 340, 440. Why not focus on the machines like, I feel like the triple score is basically the new entry level detector with all these settings, but take the preset programs and let's optimize them to be user friendly. And I'm going to share this with you. I was thinking about the beach program. Why on a triple score, a legend, and I sent this to Nokta, so they're discussing it now. I talked to Mark, the guy that was on here last week, about this. I said, you guys need to take that beach program. Let me go out here to the beach. Let me give you the settings that are the calmest, stablest, and you need to turn on tracking ground balance in the beach program by default on all your detectors, from the triple score to the legend to the Legend 2, because experienced users like us can cut it off if we don't want to use it. But what does that do? It allows the man that comes down on vacation, spends his money to walk out on the beach, turn the metal detector on. You got a little thing in there that says set your sensitivity around 10 or 11. Noise cancel the machine, take off hunting, and he ain't got to do jack but start digging. He ain't, you know what I'm saying? And it becomes, what do you guys think about that? I think that, and here's the thing. I told this, me and Sharpshooter talked about this, and we talked about it with XP. We come up with it should be a 1.5 or 2 reactivity on a Deus 2. Where in the world on a Deus 2 can you use a 0 reactivity on a saltwater beach? You can't. I gave that to XP. They shrugged it off. They didn't want to do it. And I'm like, well, your machine is not user friendly to a new person. You got all these preset programs that work at turn on and go, supposedly, but when you get to the beach, you don't want to do that. You want the person to have to learn how to set the reactivity to get the machine stable. Why not have it set where a more advanced user can lower it and basically neuter the machine a little bit, but have it user-friendly for the beginner? I talked about that with Brass Medic today too, but that is our idea. Why not, like on these beach programs, have it by default on? And maybe I could go through and look at the triple score and see if there's anything else that needs to be done. I hadn't really, you know, the presets, I always try to optimize the machines, but we need to start thinking about in terms of the new user, and we all started there and we didn't know jack. I had an Ace 150 reading the manual on it, how to use it, okay? That's where I started. you know, and we need to figure out how to help them get into the the game basically in a simplistic way, because this dude could have had a bad experience out on the beach and said, "Oh, that detector sucks and I'm done with it." Makes all kinds of. He said it was going round. Well, yeah, I know it was going round. He number one had the sensitivity wide open and he didn't have it ground balanced. So that's my suggestion for Nokta. Make all your machines user friendly, especially the beach program. How many of you guys are like relic hunters? You don't live close to the beach, but when you go on vacation, you go to the beach. You know, and then you have to start studying on your machine how to run it on the beach. Where if it's turn on and go, you know what I'm saying, guys. Tell me what you guys think about that. What's going on, BK? I'm way behind on the comments, man. What are you doing? No, sir. Give me just a second, guys. Boy, I'm gonna put you in the other room and shut the door if you don't stop. Stop that. No. No. I thought he done got over here and chewed something up in the metal detector. I got a new legend I showed you guys. Get out of that trash. And he's mad at me because I ain't took him outside yet. I got to go. So let's see where we're at. You got a few minutes, Slash. BK purchased a Manicore and an M9 a few months ago, but I have only taken it out to the beach. It is hard for me not to use my day. You know, and I'll say something, BK. The 9-inch coil on the Manicore and the Deus 2 are very close. So we already know that if you put the Deus 2 up on against the CTX, we know what's going to happen there, but they're really close. So if you're using a Manicore on the beach or Deus 2, you're not really losing anything with either detector. It's close. I mean, really close. Found 14 karat part today with a triple score. Had the legend for 3 years. Interested in the legend too. Well, Rick, we're going to get to that as soon as they ship it to me. D-Look told me that the engineer was out he got married, so he was out this week on his honeymoon. So the guy that approves the final version for testing, so he should be back next week. What's going on, Detector to Guns? We're just having a good conversation here and having a lot of fun, man. I had a lot to share tonight. I was trying to think of what else I was going to talk about. Been using the LG coil lately, Maze. Yeah, man, that's a good coil. What's going on, Lewis? And let's see here. Let me just scroll down through here. Better than the man bun he had. Dude, you better not tell. Dude, they scalped him, son. Hey, appreciate it, Gino. And I bought the M8 and the M9 at the same time. I put the M9 never. I love the M9. I do not like the M8. And you know, Carolina Digger that hunts with Chew on the Vortex. Carolina Digger that hunts with me, man. He is really taken to the Manicore, and he likes the M9 better too. The M8 doesn't do as good. It just doesn't. It just get down now. Stop. It doesn't do as well with it. So I'm really into the M9 coil over the M8. Huh? What do you want? Okay. We'll go out in a minute. Okay. He's telling me. Look, you guys don't believe it. Watch. He's telling me. Watch him. He's a smart dog, man. This dog is highly intelligent. What you trying to tell me? You trying to tell me something? What you trying to tell me? Huh? We will in a few minutes. This is our afternoon time. We normally go out, throw the ball, right at dark and, all that stuff. And he knows it too. So I've got just a few more minutes, Slash. Give me just a few more minutes and stop. So, yeah, the M9 coil. What's up, Johnny? What's up, Tijuana? Swampy. But yeah, we're going to get to it and see what's going on with all this stuff with the CTX. And, hey, get down. Come on. Give me a second, guys. Come on, get down. Get down. So, with round top, bottom, though, okay, I'm kind of getting sidetracked. Slash is kind of getting involved here, so I may just cut it early, but I'm waiting on, let me just say this right here before, in case he gets riled up. I'm waiting on the Legend 2, should be coming in this week. CTX coming in Tuesday. headed back to the beach. Going to do a whole series on the Manicore and all of that good stuff with the Versus CTX. And we may get the Elite, take the 900 too, and show how all of that stuff, show how all of that stuff, pans out. But let's see right here. Do metal detectors will get to the point where they were able to, I don't know. I think that it's going to keep going, man. I mean, it has to. It has to. You can beat me after this, but can I use my DS2 in 0, 1 rat 10 wet salt, water in Portugal? You know what? You tell me. I know this. It's 0 in beach and 0 in beach sensitive, and I've not messed with the dye program, so maybe I should have clarified that. I don't know of anywhere that you can run a 0 reactivity in beach sensitive or beach and not have all kinds of problems. I really, really don't. Stop. And so on the wet salt sand, but you got, let me know, Marcos. Tell me what happens when you do it. And, we'll see. We'll get back to it. If I could get to the point with future metal detectors, they could, AI, yeah, they could. Slash, get down. What are you doing, boy? Get down. Get down. Stop. Stop. Boy, he's being gnarly tonight. Yeah, where a newcomer, a guy not used to beach, can just start detecting. I absolutely agree with that. Manicore come with 11-inch by default. What's up, sharpshooter? Squirrel season. Uh-oh, you guys are already blasting stuff. Get down. Get down. Get down. Get down. Stop. So let me get off of here. I know you guys don't want to watch me wrestle my dog. He actually probably needs to go out, and that's what the problem is. But I will be back next week. Let me just look through the comments. Make user-friendly, good. And I'm just going to scroll down. I'm in, and I appreciate it, guys. But I'm going to take him outside. I know we didn't get to do the whole hour, but he needs to go out bad, it looks like. So I'm going to take him out. You guys have a great night. I'll catch you guys later on.